Okay, thank you. Councillor Perry has, she's still on the bus, she's still on home, so we'll join the meeting. She's still online, sorry. Councillor Perry. Item 5 is the future update paper, and that's the case for that, please.
Thank you, Convener. So this paper provides Council with the latest update to the Council's Be the Future target operating model and the associated transformation programme. The paper focuses on 3 elements: a refresh of the Be the Future programme, the Be the Future target operating model priorities for the current year, and workforce planning, resourcing and training. The programme refresh reaffirms that the aims, priorities and nature of the vast majority of the projects agreed back in 2019 remain completely relevant and consistent with those originally approved. We have, however, in a number of areas, evolved our language and descriptors and the level of ambition in a number of areas to be more reflective of the progress that we are now making and the opportunities that are being accessed that weren't known at the time. There are also some new areas which have been added to the programme, and others where activities are now more integrated. In the May Be the Future update paper, Council agreed to streamline our strategic planning framework. To implement this decision, Council was informed that further work would be required to ensure that in transition to the new arrangement, the Council does not compromise its golden thread performance model. This work is now at an advanced stage and will be considered at the October meeting of Council. In the transitional period, work has also been undertaken to consolidate a range of Be the Future Council decisions, including those from the current year's budget, and these are set out in Appendix 2. Appendix 2 summarises these key priorities, which reflect a significant level of activity and in many cases will be expected to span more than 1 year. The priority projects aim to strike a balance between building firm foundations for future transformation, delivering new approaches on the ground, ensuring that our staff are well supported to contribute to future models and transformation, as well as to deliver financial benefits from transformation. The final section of the report provides an update on recent recruitment to the new transformation posts and highlights the importance of the Council's workforce strategy as an enabler of future transformation and to ensure that our staff are developed, supported and skilled to transition to new or different roles. Separately on this agenda, Council is also considering the interim workforce strategy which supports these aims. Finally, the report sets out the importance of identifying staffing and skills implications of any proposed changes and the capacity that has been created to fund any resultant priority training needs. I'm happy to take any questions on the paper.
Thank you. Do you have any questions? Councillor Clyde?
Thanks very much. If you just a couple of wee things of clarification for me, probably because I don't know things. In collaborative community models, one of the bullet points is moving resources and staff closer to communities. Is that an emotional connection or is it a geographical connection we're talking about there? Page 60.
So you can't convey. Sorry, you can't convey very much in a very short point. So I appreciate the question. So that is actually very much about continuing the trajectory and direction of travel we've had as a council in terms of our ambitions to get to a mixed economy of service delivery models where we're improving the participation, engagement and leadership of our communities in both the design and delivery of services for the future. So it could be both, to be honest, depending on the context, but it's very much about continuing that trajectory.
And on the following page, 61, say, first bullet point, creation of new community entity for decision making and funding opportunities. Buses gas.
to be reported at future meetings once we've developed the work. So if you appreciate this is forward looking. So the idea is that it's, if you like, an evolution of the discussion we had about the investment strategy, starting to think about how you leverage both funding and resources in a different way to support the new and emerging models for the future. So you know we've had conversations in the past about actually different mechanisms or structures may allow us to access different funding streams that the council may not. So that those sorts of mechanisms may well generate that sort of activity for us.
A couple of tiny ones on the last page 62. What does a data insight project manager do?
I'm sorry, Councillor, my ears are not great. I've got stuff with cold, I didn't catch that.
It's on page 62, the second expenditure commitments against transformation. Data insight project manager. What does he, she, or it do?
I'll ask Stuart. This is a previous part of the digital and data transformation strands.
Thanks, Councillor. So, in essence, that is work that helps progress elements around robotic type of work, looking to transform the way that we manage data. So, there's quite a lot of work that's having to be done. This is beyond information security. This is into how we actually really make data work for us and how we get efficiencies and introduce software, etc., to enable us to move to the next level of our data maturity.
That's it, sorry. It's sponsors' voice, I don't know if that's, what is £9,000 for flexible resourcing funding, sponsors' voice?
So that was something that we previously reported through council. So you'll have seen actually there's some releases that have come from spokespeople and the leader that are done on a thematic basis, so that reflect the areas of responsibility. So I think the last one I remember seeing was the climate change one. I think that's right. So there was a sponsor's voice piece around climate change was I think the last one. But there's a programme of activity that is being funded through that route at the moment. That sets out, it's a bit more of a deep dive into some of these priority areas that the spokespeople lead on.
I do have one last question. It's going to be an overarching thing, basically. The whole transformation activity is set around the idea of reforming the way that we do things. Again, bullet 3.12 at the top of page 50, you suggest that there are financial benefits of that. Are they secondary, or is it the core of the transformation process actually to cut costs as well as improve processes?
I think that's a really important question. So we recognised some time ago that there was a need to transform how we do things, how we engage with our communities and how services are designed and delivered. In doing that, alongside, obviously we can't ignore the fact that the financial context is becoming tighter and tighter for us. We have probably in the first phase of the transformation programme focused on the former. So a lot of the work has been in the space of cost avoidance, leveraging additional resource and so on. Where we're at just now with the transformation programme is we want to put an added emphasis on the financial benefits piece and look into prioritise those parts of the transformation programme that will deliver financial benefits. So of the list that is included in Appendix 2, I've drawn out things like the digital and data, where increased automation, you get a lot of customer service benefits from that, but there should also be resource releasing potential there too. Similarly, with big strand will be around assets and the asset strategy. So these sorts of ones where we think we can actually reduce what the council's bottom line expenditure is are being prioritised within the programme in this next phase. And it's actually one of the motivations in bringing the updates around the programme refresh and these priorities to council.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? Councillor Billy?
Yes, thank you. Just a couple under the asset strategy for fleet. How close are we to getting these the comments on next steps? and particularly in allowing the state review and the surplus assets and the community asset transfers. Those are the three main things I'd like to talk about.
So the intention behind this is to set out that we've had a number of individual strands or discrete strands of activity that perhaps needed to be put together in a more strategic way. So I had approved from my delegated funds some resource to allow us to do an overarching piece looking at the asset strategy that starts to pull all of those together. Obviously there's detailed work on elements of this, but not all of it, and it's not being looked at in the round across the piece, which is the intention of this work. There is a working group that's been established that are looking to develop that more integrated scope for that work just at the moment. But one of the things that I'm keen to do is, as we're looking ahead to the next budget round, thinking about what the early wins might look like in some of that space. So it would mean that some of these, in terms of, I think the first one particularly in terms of sustainable asset base, would be something that I'd be keen that we sort of expedited a wee bit if we can in the work of that group, just so that we're looking at what, we know we've got a very large asset base as a council, looking at our opportunities to streamline there and think about not only the potential capital receipt in there, but also the reduction in running costs, which have a revenue impact. So they're all on slightly different timetables, I think, is the issue, and what we're trying to do is create one consolidated timetable.
And does that go up again with the communication and engagement with the resilient internal and external communications that's under yourself?
I think I caught it. I think you were asking about where we were at with the communication and engagement. Yeah. So that one is one that I reported just at the May Council that we needed to look at. I think you remember. So the intention will be that I'll create scope around that activity, and then it will start to feed into these reports as we come forward.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mark. Councillor Russell.
Thanks, Chair. I'd just like to ask on page 57, you've got the appendix for the future target operating model, and under economic performance you could CRD from Japanese Garden, but I don't see the International Environment Centre, for instance, the impact report of the Stirling University. I just wonder where that features in the appendix of the feature.
Yeah, you may recall, it's actually in there, you may recall the name change because you combined two of the City Region Deal projects, the SIEC and the Innovation and Intergenerational Living, I can't say it, ILIH, sorry. I'm going to struggle today with this. So it actually appears as CRD, Alloa Innovation for Wonder Economic Performance. That's the two projects combined together.
Thank you. Any other questions? Okay, thank you, Lydia. Councillor Forson, do you?
Yeah, happy to move the paper. I mean, I think we're provided with an update of the ongoing work that's taking place as the budget in relation to the Be the Future programme. There is significant work, as we can see, underway, and the Be the Future board is meeting next week, so we'll give those elected members on the board the opportunity to have further discussion and scrutiny about the way forward. I think what's clear from the work that's ongoing is that Clackmannanshire is at the forefront of public service redesign and service delivery. This is gaining a lot of attention, not just here in Scotland, but UK-wide, and I think that's something that we should be proud of. It's fair to say that we're here by necessity. We're having to transform because we don't have the funds to continue delivering the services in the ways that we always have, and we need to make priorities. The Be the Future programme and the Transformation programme, they're one and the same thing, but it's allowing us a focus on what our priorities should be, and we're aligning the work around about that. We know those of us who were at the event last week in Alloa Academy will have got a touch on just some of the work that's been ongoing. I'll just touch on a little bit of that at the moment. There's the Columbia 1400 programme that's supporting the Family Wellbeing Partnership along with the Hunter Foundation. We are doing significant work around the promise, employability, child wellbeing and community and youth justice. And this work cannot be underestimated because it really does underpin, I think, Clackmannanshire collective will to tackle child poverty in our most disadvantaged communities. So the work that's been going on is quite immense, and I'm quite proud of it. And I think we should all be quite proud of it. There's an awful lot more to do, and we cannot underestimate the scale of the challenge that is ahead of us. But as a result of some of this work and some of the attention that we're getting from national governments, just recently in the programme for government, Clackmannanshire Council was identified as an area where we're going to continue the early adoption of the out-of-hours school childcare that we've been doing. And myself, along with Lorraine and other officers, we welcomed the Deputy First Minister to the Hawk Health Centre just a couple of weeks ago to show some of the work that Clackmannanshire has been doing as a result of the significant Scottish Government funding. The programme for government also identified Clackmannanshire as an early adopter of childcare for children aged 9 months and upwards, and that's providing us funding to help, I suppose, underpin a lot of our ambitions around economic growth and getting women, particularly from our most disadvantaged communities, back into employment, not just any employment, but the employment that will provide well-paid sustainable jobs for the future moving forward. So lots of good work ongoing there. I've moved to Appendix 1, which is highlighting the areas of priority and the target operating model. A lot of these have been here for a while, but there's some new additions in here, and one of the ones I want to, I suppose, highlight is the sustainable transport work through the Family Wellbeing Partnership. I'm involved in so many different forums throughout Clackmannanshire and Forth Valley, and the one thing that's coming up time and time again is the barrier to people accessing employment, accessing education and accessing other opportunities is the lack of a decent transport system. We'll all know, we'll all be contacted by constituents that the bus service just now is deteriorating quite rapidly. And that's understandable because companies just want to focus on the routes that are making money. So we're trying to get together as a family wellbeing partnership, working with the third sector, the private sector, and other partners to see what we can do here in Clackmannanshire to fill in those gaps and to just, I suppose, make the difference. That's going to mean that our young people can access education in Stirling and Falkirk and Glasgow, that can make sure that we can access the jobs that are out with Clackmannanshire. So lots of good work there, but lots more to come. I would also say that there is the golden thread that's been mentioned previously in these sorts of things, and I'm saying that for Nick because she does like the golden thread. Every single one of these things are connected. We can't, kind of separate out one piece of work from the other. And I think we need to keep that in mind. It can seem that progress is going slow, but actually there is so much work going on and so much positivity as well. But there are the challenges, as I've said before, and I'm looking forward to future updates and also to the future board on Tuesday, where we can get into a bit more detail on some of these things. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Lindsay, second.
Thanks, Kinga. Nice to be back. And attention I don't think there's a huge amount really to add. I know it's an annoying thing to say, but Councillor Corson really articulated the current situation really well. But I'll certainly just add a few comments. Fully support the paper, the programme, the associated resourcing that's outlined in the paper as well. Be pleased to know as well that I'm completely aligned with the 10 corporate priorities that are outlined. And like Councillor Corson, have been involved to varying degrees in a number of the projects that are outlined. The People's Celebration was a prime example of, one, the projects that are really working for our communities, but two, we both noted that need to celebrate and to actually recognise the work that's going on both within the council and with partners out with. So just want to take that opportunity to reinforce that we want to see more of that. We want to talk up Clackmannanshire Council. We're seeing the recognition that we're getting nationally. So that was a great opportunity for us to do that. But certainly the 10 corporate priorities and the associated projects are working very well in terms of reaching our outcomes around health and wellbeing, sustainable local growth and supporting our families and communities. I think resourcing going forward is critical, and looking forward to the new senior officer being appointed, which will make a significant difference in terms of capacity, and obviously that links to that overall workforce strategy, which again will be linked to the next paper as well. So overall, really clear overview, really clear paper. Thanks to Nicky for the work in and around this, which Councillor Post has already highlighted. This is a necessity. We have to deliver our services differently, given the pressures that we have, but the needs of our communities amongst anything else. So there we go. The lights are getting tired. On that basis, I'll second the paper. Thanks.
Yeah, well, thank you. And I apologize for the issue about the advance of the council, as well as Councillor Liddy, who's rejoined us on the line. Anybody else wish to debate the paper? Councillor Cullen?
Yeah, the debate stage is meant to be one where you highlight pros and cons of the paper and examine these in some detail to try and persuade folk on their part. It's very difficult to find any cons in this paper at all, to be honest with you. It's such a positive one. And lots of highlights in it. 3.1 talks about the increased urgency to reimagine the design of council services, energy in the process. 3.4 talks about levels of ambition related to understanding of community priorities. Excellent. It's all very, very positive stuff and coming in the paper.
Thank you for that. Anybody else? No? Mr. Porson, you've got to sum up. Okay, so the paper asks us to see it 2.25 items of priority note. And we're further required to agree to the Council's update with the future programme in Appendix 1 and the Council's new future target operating model priorities for 2024, which is captured in Appendix 2. Happy to approve? Thank you. Item 6 is the interim workforce strategy for 2025. Chris, take us through the paper. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. From Council. The paper is.
Sorry.
The paper is tabled seeks Council approval of the interim workforce strategy for 23 to 25. The interim strategy provides detail on how over the next 2 years we will set the foundations for workforce development and learning ahead of the creation of the full strategic workforce plan for 25 to 28. The strategy will also be a key support to the organisation as work progresses with the Be the Future programme and as jobs and skills develop alongside the proposed target operating model. Council should note that the strategy is performed by Commission Socials as well as input from a short-lived working group with participation from colleagues. The interim strategy provides context to our key workforce challenges, including the ongoing impact of COVID, the need to transform our services, as was outlined in the Chief Executive's Be the Future update, and the challenging financial environment in which services are delivered. The strategy also outlines continuing the commitment to workforce planning, leadership and development, addressing recruitment and retention challenges, digital transformation, our commitment to staff wellbeing, and our ongoing approach to raising awareness and understanding of trauma-informed practice. In line with the organisational redesign framework, which was presented to Council. In line with the organisational redesign framework previously presented to Council, the interim strategy identifies the key workforce development themes, i.e. creating conditions, developing the team and releasing the potential. The actions that are detailed within the strategy align to these themes and progress will be reported to the audit and scrutiny. I'm happy to take questions that members would have.
Okay, thanks, Chris. Do you have any questions?
Yeah, I'm just wondering if I can add a little bit more clarity to it. I know if the education headcount had been reported separately. I don't know if it stops the value of some of the graphs in here. We were looking at page 75, you might have moved from G4 to G6. If I knew what they were, or comments on. But I'm imagining that there's a lot of teachers in there somewhere, or is that no? Who explain that, please?
So the headcount and age profile includes teachers, but the grade distribution is just a single status staff. But it was just an indicative snapshot of work. If we can include that when it's published, we can include the distribution of teacher salaries in it as well. Okay,
So, sorry to interrupt. Silence. What are G4 and G6? What does that represent? What levels of staff are we talking about?
So G1, G2, they're the salary grades. So a G4 post could be a business officer, business admin. A G grade 10 would be a team leader level. So they're the salary grades and boundaries of our workforce.
No, I understand that, but what is G6 and G4?
Grade 6, grade 4.
I know.
So,
What do they do?
oh, there'll be different jobs in those areas. So as I say, so a G4 could be a business admin officer. Janitors, G3 might be cleaners, G7 will be business support. Sorry, G6 will be business support. So there's different jobs which are evaluated with their job evaluation scheme. So there'll be various jobs across the council. So it's not just one job in those grades.
Is that you guys?
Yeah.
Okay, Councillor Quinn, will you come back?
Sorry. The length of service, I was looking at, what's your view? Is that a good trend or a bad trend? Is it a trend? And I know this is a snapshot, so it's not really showing trends as such, but what is the trend in length of service? Are we keeping people or are we losing people?
Our attrition rate, I think, depends on different areas, but we do have a lot of staff who have been here for a while, so that can be seen as a good thing, but it can also be seen as a bad thing. So we still want to develop and invest in our staff and encourage people to stay with us, but also attract talent into the organisations. We want to have a natural attrition rate as an employer.
I mean, if we got a fairly... I'm just concerned that we've got a bubble waiting to burst at the end of another year, starting with black companies and waiting.
Yes, so we have 25-26% of our workforce is over the age of 55, so that's something we need to build in terms of succession planning and future-proofing the organisation, and that's why we're going to undertake as part of the workforce strategy review of recruitment. So how do we increase modern apprentices, how do we upskill the workforce to take account of that future exodus of people from the organisation?
Okay, thank you, Councillor Quinn. To be followed by Councillor Lenny.
Nice to hear. Just a quick question about 4.2. The paper that mentions the 10% casual staff members, either contract, short-term contracts, and what type of jobs are we employing people on that basis of? Thanks.
So we have supply teachers in terms of short-term supply teachers, and we also have casual staff, and probably a lot of our social services areas. So they're not zero-hour contracts. There's no mutuality of obligation, and no needs to accept any kind of take work. So it's utilised to ensure if there's absences or sicknesses or holidays that we can plug statutory areas of staff in catering, for example. So we have different casual pools of social care assistants, social care practitioners. We may have casual cleaners that are active on us when we need to fill on a short-term ad hoc basis.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Harrison. Sorry, Councillor Lenny, to be followed by Councillor Harrison.
Yeah, thank you very much. Yeah, so it's just on the review of all review, and I wondered if in conducting that review you were going to be looking at more with it.
Yes, looking at underrepresented groups as part of our recruitment process. Yes, absolutely, Council, that's something we'll be focusing on in terms of improving those areas across our recruitment as well.
Suspect you, Councillor Lenny, and only two that will yourself again. Councillor Harrison.
Thanks for that. How many apprentices have we got across the council? If it's in there, apologies. I was trying to find that.
Yes, it is. We have 12 active apprentices, which is our lowest that we've had over a number of years. So one of the things we want to look at again as part of our recruitment review smart use of vacancies. So we are an apprentice-led organisation, but that doesn't support all apprentices. We can only draw down 15,000 of funding from that through the flexible workforce fund. Skills Development Scotland supports all apprentices with some of the training, but we as employers pick up the cost in any additional training. So what we want to do potentially as part of recruitment is look at our vacancies and whether or not we can utilise all apprentices in our vacancies for that. So some additional budgets to the council, and so that'll be part of that recruitment review, how we can better utilise all apprentices and graduate apprentices going forward, which kind of aligns to Councillor Cron's earlier questions.
Yeah, kind of follow on the question that Councillor Coyne asked about succession planning as well, and the apprentices, we really should. Give so many benefits to be able to use apprentices for succession planning, so it's good to, you know, thanks.
Okay, Councillor McTaggart.
Thanks, Convener. Just going back to the point that Councillor Quinn raised about casual. Are the assumed agency workers that we bring in? Sorry.
No, they're not agency workers. So agencies that are agencies are not employees of the council per se. The casual pool is a pool of workers where we can call them if which are requirements, or short-term requirements, and a social work care assistant or so forth. We can go to the casual pool and say, if we've got a shift, this is something we'd like to do. We don't have to accept that shift, so there's no mutuality of obligations when to take work from us, but we have just a pool to ensure we're able to sustain our work.
Right, and as a supplementary, can I just say, are there any figures on the amount of agency staff that we use as opposed to these casuals? And also, in the recruitment drive, are we specifically targeting these areas where we're taking casual stroke agency to fill these gaps? Because I know that that's more expensive for us if it's agency staff. Thanks, guys.
So in terms of reporting, so we do report management information through tripartite. We do that on a 6-monthly basis. You may recall a couple of meetings ago what we agreed to do with a higher level overview for tripartite, which is also link it in with recruitment, so you can see that kind of correlation. We do use agencies for difficult areas to recruit in, and we also actually actively recruit for those roles. It's much cheaper as an organisation to engage casual staff and we have a very short-term and ad hoc basis than prolonged agency recruitment. But like any other council across Scotland, we're finding particular areas it's difficult to recruit into. So we're looking to become an enhancer of reputation as an employer. That's one of the papers coming up in terms of day one rights in the future. So making us more attractive to this kind of organisation and sell ourselves.
Thank you, Councillor College.
Thank you, Convener. Page 80, Chris, developing the team and in terms of remote working there. Has any analysis been done, can it be done, on the effectiveness or otherwise of remote working?
So we are developing a future-based working model as we speak, and I think Nikki will be engaging with leaders next week on that approach. And what we will be doing is when we embed that approach, we will review it in 12 months' time to see how effective it is and what changes we need to make. So we are planning on doing that and reviewing exactly how effectively that is going to be.
So you're talking about doing research in a year's time on what happens over the scheme when you've got 2 years behind us. I know that. Cool, convinced.
Yes, the Chief Executive's point is the model that we're proposing has been informed by the experiences that we've had over the last 2 or 3 years in relation to COVID. we're obviously a custody and a service provider, and how we continue to do that. And so the model's been informed by that, but then we can also be informed going forward to see what we're proposing may not be fit for purpose in governance life. We want to continue review and how to use our buildings as well with the workforce.
And will we get an opportunity to look at that, because it's quite a contentious issue for one working, quite emotional. We'll know at some point.
Yes, so we talk about those principles within this plan, where we say on the report forward and scrutiny, kind of the actions identified in there, so there will be opportunity.
And yeah, the next page, interesting article. On page 81 it says under address members / officer interactions as noted, etc. And it says provide support to elected members so as to address perceived issues with boundaries and operation of lands. Who perceived and what did they perceive?
So as part of the Truman Change Culture which informed our capacity and culture audit a year, so 18 months ago, we undertook workshops with staff and union representatives to look at the whole spectrum of culture and what impacts on culture through the organisation. One of the things that came out of that was perceptions of council officers that I suppose in relation to perceived priorities for the elected member might be asking something that might be at odds or conflict with the day-to-day work. So I suppose it's a raising awareness for council officers of the role of the elected members and equally the role of the elected members to the council. So it was just officers who attended these workshops who were making these references.
This is going to defuse a future situation, then, really, isn't it? Okay. Thanks. That's all.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? Okay, thanks, Chris. Councillor Wilson.
Thanks, Convener. I'm happy to propose an interim workforce strategy that will cover the next 2 years. Although it is interim, it has to be at the moment because we're undergoing a significant period of change. And as the previous speaker outlined, the Base Future programme will undoubtedly shape our workforce for the future and change the way the council delivers services. However, I do think, and I'm hopeful that work has started already on the more permanent workforce strategy plan, because as soon as one plan's kind of agrees and delivered, we need to move on to the next one to I suppose, start to anticipate some of these changes here. I mean, I think the workforce data is quite key, and it probably highlights a number of areas. The average age of our workforce is 45 years, and 75% of that workforce is female. I think we can see, particularly the way society is moving, there will be challenges there. And it's right that we try to introduce flexible working practices to help accommodate these sorts of things. We know that women tend to be the carers for those in the society, and we know that more people are living longer and more people are being cared for at home. So we're going to have to kind of build these sorts of things in. We've got over half of our workforce in full time, but then there's quite a lot of part-time work in there as well. What can we be doing to support people within those areas that if they want to work full time or if they want to work part-time? Again, it's quite stark to see that 93% of those in part-time members are female. And again, that highlights a lot of the challenges that we have, not just as a county, but that we're seeing Scotland-wide. I think as well there's an opportunity for the council to really think about what some of us call growing your own talent, because we know the challenges that are out there in recruitment. We've got a number of vacancies that are not just particular to Clackmannanshire, but particular across the entire local government sector. So if we can't recruit, then what do? We're going to have to start training and building our own workforce. And that takes time, so we need to start taking those decisions now. I think the questions about apprenticeships were absolutely spot on. I think there's more that we could do with apprenticeships, not just at the base level, but we could be doing a lot more work in relation to graduate apprenticeships, particularly in the areas that we're struggling to recruit. And that's where you support a young person to go through their degree at the same time as they're working for the council. You can tie in periods where they could, you know, have to work for the council after that. I think that's prudent, and I think there's a lot we could do in relation to that. Those of us who attended the briefing the other day were kind of shocked at the eye-watering figures where, you know, kind of cyber security and IT roles are you know, attracting salaries in excess of £140,000, and that those kind of officers are hard to recruit. So I think there's a lot we could be doing to kind of build the role there as well. So yeah, I think the paper is positive. It outlines the challenges that we've got and the steps that we're starting to take towards that. But these challenges, I don't think, are going to stop, and we're going to need to redesign the workforce moving forward on that. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Russell.
Thank you, Chair. Just formally second it. I think Ellen, as usual, covered the vast majority of the ground in the demographics of the council workforce. I'd like to thank Chris and his staff for pulling together the workforce strategy and embedded within it is indeed a commitment to look at apprenticeships and graduates, which I would agree with my colleagues and particularly Councillor Harrison. It's just a little bit disappointing the level we've got at the moment, particularly when we've got about 80 different apprentice pathways and only 12 of those being filled. I think there are challenges there in terms of trying to align some of our other wellbeing policies in terms of maybe the promise to look after children and creating a career pathway for them. So there's, I know our education services starting to work with businesses out there and trying to get a lot of these things aligned. With the majority of our workforce being female and post-COVID, we've rapidly changed over to hybrid working, and that's got to be a good thing for our female and male workforce. But it does indicate in some of the areas we've got to think about a growing, maturing workforce with less younger staff coming on. And of course there's a big demand, and as Ellen's kind of highlighted, the whole digital economy and artificial intelligence, which is something we've got to keep pace with, but we've also got to be aware of reskilling our staff and evolving the council and local government to address a lot of these issues. So I think we've got the start of that there in the wellbeing, the workforce planning in the appendix. And just looking for approval on that and wish Chris can start on taking that forward.
Okay, thank you. Papers are now open to debate. Councillor Wilson, you want to sum up, I assume. Papers asked to vote and approve the strategy the activities plan. Are you happy to do it? Thank you. Item 7 is the community Emerson Sports Club's no domestic rates review, and the Stuart.
Thank you, can be that. I hope this short paper is self-explanatory, even if the maths that sit behind it was somewhat challenging to explain within the report. The paper asks Council to determine its policy position on non-domestic wage relief for eligible community amateur sports clubs, with a recommendation to approve 100% relief rate, bringing it in line with other Forth Valley neighbouring councils and then indeed other councils here. I'd be happy to answer any questions that members may have.
Thanks, Stuart. Any questions? Councillor Benny?
Thanks, Stuart. I'm just looking at these, I'm going to be silly here, but what's the difference between NDR relief and NDR relief position? If there's an issue, you can't actually get onto that. Am I reading this wrong? No. I was reading the paper and it looked to me as if the whole point was we might not be able to do this 100% NDR relief, and what would happen if we can't?
Oh, thank you. Okay, yeah, maybe I didn't find the explanations quite difficult to explain within the paper. So, in essence, at the moment, if an organisation is categorised as a community amateur sports club, the default position is that there's a mandatory 80% relief, and then that organisation therefore has to pay the non-domestic rates from the 20%. Council has discretion to actually enable 100% discretion, but there are costs associated with that. So I think what the paper is asking is that, does council want to move to the 100% discretion for community amateur sports clubs, and beyond the 80% mandatory, that sets out that there are cost implications to that, which are set out within the report, but I think also that there's quite significant benefits to those those clubs as well, in terms of the relief that they would get from that. Again, in the paper, it does explain that the council has to bear a quarter of there's the 20% discretionary element, the council would have to bear a quarter of that, but the national pool would bear 3/4 of that, but there's substantial benefit to the actual the community amateur sports clubs in themselves. So hopefully that explains it. At the moment, we're providing mandatory 80% position. We're asking council today, do you want to move to the 100% position and bring us in line with other councils in the Forth Valley?
Thanks, Thank you.
Okay, Councillor Coyle, before the Councillor Coyle.
Thank you, Convener. In 3.5, Stuart talks at the end of the section about the possibility that it might not be budgeted for in future years, which would be an unfortunate impact on the clubs and society. I wonder if you would consider, or if it could be considered at some stage, to put a life on the agreement, perhaps, so that it doesn't, it gives them some certainty, or maybe 3 or 5 years, rather than maybe a year-to-year uncertainty.
So I think the advice from the Chief Finance Officer was to make it plain that this is an unbudgeted proposal, and so in terms of what's suggested in here, it covers it within the financial year using unearmarked reserves. What we would need to do is come forward with a demand pressure in essence of the budget, so that therefore becomes the policy in perpetuity, and then that would give that certainty of the pool.
Councillor Coyle.
Thanks, Convener. Just a quick follow-up question from Councillor Ben's question, just to make sure I understand this is answered. So this would cost £4,100 to council. Great. And then in essence that provides 4 times that benefit to all those organisations that we could get the details for. Yeah, is that correct? Yeah.
Yes, in essence, I think actually maybe slightly more. I think the totality was about 22,000 from recollection, so it's about 5 times the benefit to the organisations for the £4,000 investment that the council would be required to cover. Yeah.
No, thanks very much. Sounds like a good deal to me.
Any further questions? Councillor Holden.
I just don't know how this paper came about. Why?
It came about as a result of an inquiry that came in from a community amateur sports club that pointed out that we were an outlier in terms of the other elements, other councils within Forth Valley. So for us to take a look at that position, and so which we have done.
What sports club was it?
I can't remember which club it was. I think it might be a couple. It was at least 2 of the golf clubs that were involved. So the golf clubs, yeah.
Councillor Coyle. You go. Okay. Any other questions? Well, that's all right.
Sorry, just to answer Scott, I think was with the other boxing club coming in that category.
No, I don't believe it would come under the category of a community amateur sports club. I did circulate a note yesterday evening, obviously to show which clubs it would be. It is very technical, it's got things to do with bar takings and all that sort of stuff, so I would certainly have to go back to colleagues in revenues to actually understand who is and who isn't eligible. But in terms of who is eligible, I circulated a note yesterday that sets out which clubs that are. So it's in essence golf clubs, there's rugby clubs in there, and bowling clubs would be the main beneficiaries.
Sorry, I'll my apologies, I wouldn't have asked the question, I was getting in your position, that's fine.
Okay, thank you. If there are no further questions, thank you, Stuart. Councillor Harrison, to move the paper.
Yeah, thanks, Mayor. Thanks, Stuart. That was not the easiest arithmetic to get your head around. Amateur sports clubs are a really important part of our local communities. They're not only sports clubs, they are places where people gather together to participate or to spectate. They're also places where lifelong friendships are made, and places where friends regularly meet up on sporting events, and often actually on social events as well that are held within the clubs. Organisations as these help with the all-round well-being, not only the physical well-being, but also the mental well-being for people who attend and can gather and meet friends. We also in the council, we actually use some of these facilities to provide some of our sport and leisure activities for school kids, and we use them free of charge. Such as the partnership that we've actually got with these facilities. So in summary, I believe this is absolutely the right thing to do to support our community sports clubs as much as we can. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Lindsay.
Thanks, Convener. Yeah, just to echo those sentiments. I mean, as just highlighted already, it makes sense financially for the clubs, and in terms of the full cost that's outlined. It's not a huge cost, but the benefit actually that getting to those costs. Similar to Councillor Harrison, the clubs, and it was helpful that for Stuart to send that list of clubs as well, so we could see that. But there are a number of clubs there that I know. Those around the table will know as well that provide a really good service for young people, for older people, for a range of different people that want to get involved in sport, physical activity. So, it's welcome from that perspective as well. I think the only thing I would say is there's probably one or two or a few clubs on there that perhaps, if we are going that extra mile for them here today, that I would like to maybe see one or two clubs within that. Let's go the extra mile for some of our young people out there. That could form some come and try sessions that could involve just a little bit more payback to the community. So I won't name those particular clubs, but there are certain clubs on there that I think certainly could perhaps encourage and give a little bit more back to some of the local communities in which they sit. But really happy to explore the paper. It's the right thing to do. Thanks.
Thank you. The paper's open for debate. Any wish to debate the paper? So the paper's recommending the council approve a policy of 100% non-domestic rates relief for eligible community amateur sports clubs in Clackmannanshire practically in November 2022, and agree the use of £5,123 from one earmarked general reserves to fund the policy in the current year 2023-24, and any eligible backdated element from November 22 to 31st of March 23. Further asked to note that it requires to agree demand pressure of approximately £4,100 in the forthcoming budget. Should this not be possible, the policy would not be funded from the 1st of April 2024 onwards, and as such would revert to the mandatory non-domestic rates relief position. Are we happy to approve the paper? Thank you. Colleagues, I'm conscious that we're past 1:15 at the moment, which is when we're supposed to have a lunch break. I've got 3 items on the agenda, quite a couple of adjournments already this morning. I'm going to ask you to content just as one of the 3 items fairly comfortable that none of this year will be too long and get to change, but I'm feeling what's happened this morning, we should probably presume that. But if anybody feels that we need to stop that debate just now, then we'll have to do it. But if council agrees it, we'll have to go ahead and do the final three papers.
We're fine with that, I'm on council.
What's the
Thanks.
it's different.
I'll comment if you want. Okay, I'm going to move on to the papers unless anybody strongly objects to this. So the papers linked to the global allowance and Celine, please.
Thank you, Convener. I'll try to be brief. So this paper is in relation to the footwear and clothing grant, which is paid to parents and carers to support them with the cost of school clothes and uniform. And the report is seeking council agreement to increase the amount that we pay to parents and carers in Clackmannanshire to reflect inflationary increases that we have seen since 2021 and to help, of course, with the current cost of living. The eligibility criteria for the clothing grant is the same as that for preschool meals, which is income-based and it's set by the Scottish Government. If council agree to this increase, eligible parents and carers will receive the increase in early October, and we estimate that that would be for about 300 children in Clackmannanshire who could benefit. The costs are estimated to be 41,140, which for this year would be met from the balance of COVID recovery funds, and then considered, just as Stuart has previously said, as a pressure in the 24-25 budget. I'm happy to take any questions. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. So, do you have any questions? Councillor Coyne?
Thank you, Convener. Yeah, I thoroughly support the idea of meeting inflationary expenditure like that. But I want to question the data source that's used here. You've used the CPI, the general CPI, not the inflation in clothes and footwear. And there's debate about what the actual figures are there. I have two sources. One is the Sun newspaper, which agrees with you at 17%.
What's your back
What did the Sun say? 17%.
Must be true.
And the Office of National Statistics says CPI is 16.5. So they're in the same, and they've probably got sources there. However, there's an organisation which is in England only called the Schoolwear Association. Are you aware of that? And they surveyed their members, 851 schools, and they came back with the argument that inflation since 2020 has been 0.5% in school uniform expenditure. So my question is, how confident are you that there has been an actual increase in expenditure in that niche area?
We'll break for lunch.
It sounds very low to me in terms of what that organisation is saying. I'm not familiar with that organisation. We just applied the CPI index as we do with other parts of inflation figures that we're looking at. So I would say that parents choose clothes that are not always categorised as school wear, but they're still appropriate for school, so there's probably a bit of that. So but I do think school clothing has increased quite considerably over that period, so I would really question that lower figure and feel comfortable that the CPI figure is appropriate in this instance.
Well, is that showing them south of the border if it's only 1.2% down there? Well, is that from south of the border?
Any other questions? Councillor Quinn?
Thank you. No, just a kind of a related question, if you like, is there any other initiatives that we are doing to try and make the cost of school uniforms cheaper or provide more assistance? Now, I know how expensive, I've got two tests, I know how expensive clothes are, and all those connected, by our clothes for them now, so that keep the price a little bit well. So is there anything else we're doing as well to try and cut that? can you just tell us a little more about that? Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. All of our schools, I'm confident in saying, have banks of school clothing which are pre-used or pre-loved, as some of them like to describe, and are accessible to parents. So blazers, you see them in all of the secondary schools being recycled. And actually, the stigma around about that is not anywhere near as what it used to be. So I think people go into these shops, it's done very carefully within the school, so it's not an area where only those kids go in. It's actually used quite frequently. We also support the gate and the clothing bank that they have. We've recently given money to the gate through the Lens project as part of the Family Wellbeing Partnership. So I think there's a lot of support out there for parents, but there's no doubt those of you who have children or grandchildren or who are connected to children will know the cost that comes throughout the year, so it's not just a one-off. But yes, there's an extensive support from the schools directly.
Sorry, thanks for that.
Thank you, Councillor Martin. Anybody else? Question? Councillor Sullivan?
Am I going first?
You go first, Martin, sorry.
Okay, thanks for that. Yeah, I think this is actually a very positive paper, to be honest with you. I mean, when I see this name coming out of the academies, and they've all got the blazers on, and they've all got the shirts on, and it makes such a difference to the people who are watching these kids go up, wherever they get something to eat. They're all very nicely dressed, they're not scruff or anything like that. So it's actually a good thing, and from 120 to 140 is not a huge amount, but if that can help to supplement, then we need to do it. I mean, it's costing us a bit more for everything this time, so why not have this, because it's needed. But I think it's very good, plus, as you say, the extra ones that are in school, I know I've got a niece and
Martin, sorry, I apologise if you don't catch your hands in there originally, but it's a question, or a question.
That's a question. That's a question.
Is it?
Do you agree? Do you agree with what I'm saying here, that it's a very good idea to have that? Thank you.
Councillor Wilson.
Actually, my iPad's just popped out. So is this policy not more about seeking parity as well with our neighbouring councils and what's going on? I agree.
So it will take us all as I mentioned, we can set our own level of school clothing grant, but we do get funding for some of that from the Scottish Government. So it will take us in line, but not exactly the same as local authorities, but we will probably be in a higher category of those local authorities. So it takes us up slightly above Falkirk and slightly above Scotland.
Okay, any further questions? No? Thank you, Lynn. Councillor Lindsay, to you today.
Basically, yeah, really happy to support the paper. One, it's the right thing to do. Two, it brings us in line with our manifesto commitment as well, which was to increase this particular payment in line with inflation. So, and again, you know, I'd like to ideally done this even sooner, so that what it does do, if there is any ambiguity around inflation rates, you know, we're doing it now, it's the right thing to do it. Our families are under significant pressure, the extra £20 to £25 will be essential for our families and carers who have excessive costs for school uniform. We know the cost of the school day, we've all been involved in that work. There's a lot of work, as Elaine's already articulated, to try and reduce the costs associated with the school week. Schools are doing a great job with that. Schools are being more flexible in terms of uniform as well to support that. So, yeah, and amongst the financial increase that we'll see here. We know that schools are doing their best to support our families in terms of the costs associated. As Lynn has already outlined the costs, the changes are effective from this summer. Additional payments will be made as required, payments already made to parents and carers, and the additional cost of 41k would be funded through the COVID recovery funds. And similar to the last paper, for this to be an ongoing increase or to be sustained, it'll be a similar process in terms of being a demand pressure that we need to come forward. So really supporting the paper. Again, it's the right thing to do to support our families. We know we are in the upper levels in terms of our child poverty rates, so I'm pleased that we're not just alongside, but we're actually pushing ahead in terms of that term. So thanks for your support, and
Okay, thank you. Councillor Hamilton to say.
Thanks, Convener. Yeah, the race for young people can be difficult enough, and standing out the way with your own uniform can have a lasting impact on mental health, confidence, which can impact on learning outcomes and well-being. So therefore, I'm pleased to see this Council's commitment to supporting eligible parents and carers. I welcome seconding this paper.
Okay, thank you. The paper's open now for debate. Councillor Wilson.
Yeah, welcome the paper. If we're serious about tackling poverty, which we say we are, then this is the right thing to do. I would actually like to do more. However, we do have the financial constraints that we are working around. When we're talking about inflation, I'm going to mention my son, and the last time I did this threatening legal actions, just don't tell him. My son, he's 6'2", he's an extra large in clothes, and I'll tell you right now, £175 doesn't go anywhere to kind of meet his needs. There's an expectation that school uniform is for smaller children, etc. It's not. I mean, particularly our young people when they reach their teens, they do wear adult size. And just picking up on Councillor Coyne's question, last year I bought a jacket for Jamie that was £45. This year it was £55, the exact same jacket, slightly bigger size, but you know the change was to do with inflation. And you're seeing that across the board if you're actually out there kind of buying regular clothes. I'm not a big fan of the school uniform. I would probably abolish it if I could. So this clothing doesn't just have to be used for blazers and kind of school sweatshirts. It can be used to cover the cost of everything that young person needs to wear for school. So it's a good paper. It does square off a manifesto commitment that we made to increase the clothing grants by inflation. We should have picked that up in the budget. No, we didn't, but we're putting that right now. So we are happy to support the paper. And hopefully not get sued by the 16 minutes.
Thank you, Councillor Martin. Former Councillor Quinn.
Yeah, I would say as well it's in line with the promise and the scaffolding around the child. And I think it's a really positive paper. And school uniforms are a touchy subject, you know, but it will be a real help for mums and carers to have this and be able to spend a wee bit more.
Thank you. Councillor Quinn.
I remember when I was a child, and maybe some other people when they were children as well, it was a while ago now, but yeah, you know, you went with the right gear at school, you know, you were target for bullying, and you know, you're included, and you know, it kind of causes isolation and all that kind of thing. So it has a really big impact on children at school that they're, you know, they're wearing the appropriate gear as well. So very pleased to see this, and also we know we do have a lot of child poverty rates here in areas like Clackmannanshire. So it is important that, you know, when the parents who are the biggest concern is making sure that they can keep the house warm and get enough food on the table, that there is going to be some extra support now, on top of other support that's already there, to be able to help them, to provide the children with you know, the right clothing and the right shoes, things to attend school and to feel part of it like everyone else, so they're not isolated or singled out in any way. So I'm very pleased to see this, and that, you know, we're increasing that limit of collection, so hopefully that will go some way to help some of these families that will receive of it. And so I'll be very pleased to support this paper. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Coyne.
Thank you. Yeah, let me say straight off the bat that I've never paid attention to vote against this paper. I just picked up on a technical point, and it's just, I think we need to be careful sometimes when we make claims about, you know, sources and reasons. Sometimes we need to be on ball on it. It was just the information available to me was that the inflation So having said that, I'm really just putting that down as a marker for my thinking, in terms of justification for things. Any old black argument, I still favour 100%.
Okay, thank you. Councillor
I was just going to say, against school uniform, I think blizzards are absolutely pointless. They don't keep you dry and they don't keep you warm, just a waste of money. But in saying that, I do welcome the increase as having a small child myself, and I've definitely seen the rise in the clothing costs for him, and he is only turning 5, so it is very expensive just now. Thanks.
Thank you. Is there any others? Councillor Lindsay, no opportunity, no? Okay, so the papers recommend that the council agrees the increase to the value of the food and clothing grant to the following levels. Notes that in order for the increase to be maintained beyond this year, further increase in line with inflation, provision will need to be included as part of the 24-25 budget settlement. The two sums are primary school age children from £120 to £140, and secondary age children from £150 to £175. Happy to approve. Thank you. Item 9 is a polling districts and polling place review paper.
Good afternoon, councillors. I'm presenting a paper for the polling districts and polling places review for your consideration. And I ask that you agree to the proposed timetable and the steps required to undertake this review and public consultation. This review is a legal requirement which is done every 5 years, and we seek the opinion of both the public and the elected members on the suitability of polling places and polling districts. This review must not start before the 1st of October 2023 and must be completed by the 31st of January 2025. The review includes ensuring things like disabled access is available, the buildings are still available, looking at other buildings which may have become available since the last review, and confirming the suitability of a building to be used as a polling place. If there has been an increase in the population, we need to confirm that the building and the existing polling stations are able to support this increase. If the timetable is agreed, the preliminary public consultation will open on the 2nd of October and close on the 1st of December, with feedback coming to Council on the 21st of March 2024. A final public consultation, taking into account feedback received, will take place in April 24, with Council being asked to consider and review any changes in August-September 2024. One thing I will say about this is the timing of this review may be affected when the UK parliamentary election is called. I'm happy to take any questions.
Thanks. Anyone do have any questions? Councillor.
Yeah, and page 97, the overview of the Our Road Fish Cross, I believe that's now an Indian restaurant, an Italian restaurant there. Do you have any feedback on that since one year?
No, we haven't had anything back as yet. We haven't actually approached any of them. We can't do that until the 1st of October, but we are aware of the changes. So when we write out to every one of them, we will then go and visit them and check, and that will be taken into account.
Any other questions, Councillor?
Yeah, thanks. Just my own clarification, I have to live in the Doggo area and really excavate from this. So does that mean that the management of what goes on in the polling booths in those areas which have been transferred to another UK constituency, that will be another about the Fife that will come in and do the management, so any discussions about conduct or anything will be with Fife Council? Okay, thanks.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? Councillor Watt to propose a paper?
I just strongly propose it.
Thank you. Councillor Wilson.
Yep, like this fact set to amend that what we've not said in the details in appendix 1 and 2, so I think we'll report.
Thank you. So the paper's open for debate. Any wish to debate it? No. Councillor Rennie, that's all.
So it just says it's a bit early to debate something when we don't really know what's actually going to be happening in 6 or 7 months' time. So that's
On that basis, we have to through the paper as presented. Okay, last item on the agenda, flexible working for day one right. Chris, take us through the paper, thanks.
Thank you, Convener. The paper has tabled 6 council approval to amend from the point of agreement at council the current provision that staff require 26 weeks continuous service to be able to make a flexible working request to be the day one entitlement. The paper outlines that the Employment Relations Flexible Working Act received royal assent in July 2023. The Act, which will come into force in spring 2024, makes changes to the existing provisions related to flexible working. The paper also outlines that the UK Government intends to create the day one right to request flexible working. The Council currently has a number of flexible working and family friendly policies, including compressed hours, job share, part-time, home working, annualised hours and flexi leave, as well as other specific policy provisions such as carers leave via a carer post of engaged employer. Adopting the changes to a day one right demonstrates the Council's ongoing commitment to work-life balance. The proposed changes have been discussed and agreed with our trade union colleagues, and I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Chris. Councillor Quinn.
Thanks, Convener. Just a quick question about kind of current situation. Do we know how many employees or what kind of percentage right now have got flexible working arrangements in place?
We don't see that in the information I was given in the interim workforce plan. I think it shows you the numbers that part-time, etc. But we can give a more detailed breakdown if you're looking for more specific information.
Yeah.
Okay, Councillor Coyne.
Thanks, Convener. Chris, 3.4 and 3.5, page 101. These concessions that are highlighted there, are they mandated by new legislation or are they at the discretion of the council?
So those 3.4 and 3.5 will become into law in next year. So what we're not proposing on introducing those currently. What we are proposing is the day one right for flexible working, that you can make a request from day one as opposed to waiting 26 weeks. The other provisions that will come in May will become statutory and we will amend our policy to reflect those changes at that time.
To be sure I understand you, I get the day one right, I know that, but those two concessions, the 2 flexible working requests and the 2 months, those are going to be enshrined in law and not yet? Yes. Right, understood.
Okay, any other questions? Councillor Rosselli?
Chris, are there any perceived risks to this policy?
No, I would say I think it actually enhances the reputation as an employer.
Thank you.
Councillor Quinn?
I'm sorry, but another question. Just I'm wondering, although we've talked about making a day one right, do we do anything during the hiring process? Because there might be somebody that would love to work for the council, and we would love to work here, but they don't want to take the chance to put a request the day we start and then it's rejected and they're not suitable. And do we have these kind of discussions or opportunities with people when we're in the hiring process to see if we can accommodate these kind of circumstances as well? Thanks.
So, absolutely, what we'll be doing if this is approved, this will become a big focus for recruitment. What I'm looking at drafting at the moment is kind of a really short one pager for applicants to the council on the benefits that we will have. This will be at the top of the list because of employer job support.
Councillor Quinn?
Sorry, Chris, I forgot to ask you when I know about 3.4, 3.5. Is there anything in that leads you to believe that there might be a surge of applications when that becomes law? And if that surge does happen, are you confident to cope with that?
So the current provisions of the law is one flexible request that you can make within 12 months. So it just changes to 2, so there's no big nervousness if the changes in staff make 2 requests.
But you've got less time to respond to them as well. So that's keeping it.
Confident. I suppose we won't have the option to do that. Any other questions? No? Okay, thank you, Chris. Chris, proposal please.
Yeah, happy to move this. I mean, it's nice to see the council, ahead of the curve and actually, enact the city before legislation requires us to. So, well done with officers for doing that. We saw the challenges in the workforce strategy, and we need to react to these. And anything that makes the council more attractive as an employer is a good thing for me. And I know that more and more people are thinking about flexible working for all sorts of different reasons that were possibly mentioned before. So, welcome if you are happy to propose it.
Thank you, Councillor Taggart, second.
Just one more second, thanks, convener.
Okay, people's open for debate. Anyone wish to debate? Councillor
I'm
Sullivan?
very happy to support policy. It seems to fit in with our well-being policies and being a responsible employer, and as well with our evolving policies. It tends to be a challenge. Happy to support.
Thank you, Councillor Coyne.
Yeah, I'm happy to support it too. I think anything that makes the council a more attractive place to work, because we find it difficult to compete on financial level sometimes, perhaps the kind of soft benefits of things like flexible working, such as like getting more people in the door, and that's why we need more talent on board. And also, it gives access to jobs to another section of the population, those who need to work with, so, good idea.
Okay, thank you. Any others? Councillor Dawson, so the people asked us to note the overall report and the agreement with trade unions to the change and to agree that advance proposed changes to legislation that likely reflects the working request becomes a year one intent with the Clackmannanshire Council and important that the Council approve this proposal. I'm happy to approve the paper. Okay. That's in the agenda. Thank you very much, everybody. Thanks for sticking with it through to the proceeding. I'm so pleased. Somebody say it when we get here. I appreciate it.